What happens when tradition clashes with revolution on the golf course? Enter Tom Watson, one of the most legendary names when it comes to professional golf and the PGA Tour. A man with over 70 wins and 8 championships. Standing with authority, he has some serious issues regarding LIV's grand merger with his beloved PGA. From unanswered letters to grand accusations, get ready for a deadly take from the greatest link player of all time. Hailing from Kansas City, Missouri, Tom Watson's journey into the world of golf was sparked by his father, Ray. Watson's passion for the game began to take shape under the tutorship of his initial coach, Stan Thirsk, at the Kansas City Country Club. However, it was in high school at the Pembroke Country Day School in Kansas City that he burst onto the local golf scene. From 1967 through 71, he won 4 consecutive Missouri State Amateur Championships. With obvious signs that he was destined for great things, he went to Stanford University, a great ground to balance his love for golf and table tennis while majoring in psychology. That being said, Watson dominated golf between the 70s and 80s. Apart from winning 8 major championships and topping the tour money list 5 times, he was the #1 player in the world according to McCormick's World Golf Rankings from 1978 until 1982, coming second in 83 and 1984. To crown it all, the legend also spent 32 weeks in the top 10 of the successor Sony rankings in their debut in 1986. If you think he was a beast only in his prime years, you're in for a surprise. He had the perfect definition of an evergreen career. At the Open Championship in 2009, when he was almost 60 years old, he led after the second and third rounds. At last, fate dealt its hand in a dramatic 4-hole playoff. All he needed was a par to grab gold, but he sadly missed an 8-foot putt, leaving fans stunned. Nevertheless, who needs it anyway? He had a lot of those. In his illustrious career, Watson won 8 major championships, including 2 Masters, 1 US Open, and 5 Open Championships. The only major that managed to elude him was the PGA Championship. In all, Watson's 8 majors rank 6th on the list of total major championship victories, only behind Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, Walter Hagen, Ben Hogan, and Gary Player. In a Hall of Fame career that spanned 5 decades, Watson has earned a reputation as one of golf's legends and most authoritative voices, and why wouldn't he? How many golfers do you know racked up over 70 wins in professional tournaments while claiming 8 championships for themselves? Yeah, that's right, you name them. Though not often labeled a sentimentalist, Watson occasionally shows his thoughtful side. We fondly remember a certain interview he had not too long ago, one where he was asked who stood out the most to him amongst the current crop of players. He noted he had a strong appreciation for the unique style of John Ram and Scottie Scheffler's upright swing, while still admiring both stars for their demeanor and how they treat others. And then the big question was asked: his thoughts on the future of the sport with LIV Golf on the rise. It's worth mentioning that the interview was made before the groundbreaking merger announcement between the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour, and Saudi's breakaway circuit. Noting his perspective, he believes money is key. He thinks that was the crucial factor needed to entice PGA golfers to defect from the tour to support the Saudi-backed league. However, he also noted LIV's exhibition style and no-cut format played a role. Funny enough, he also confessed LIV Golf wasn't the first circuit to attempt making a super league with lucrative deals and other scintillating incentives. In his prime years, he was even invited by one. In his narration, he was approached by sports agent Mark McCormick in the late 70s to partake in a super league of sorts that promises million-dollar purses. It's worth noting that tourney purses were around $200,000 at the time. Just think about how crazy that is. The top 20 or 30 players coming together to get far better prize money? It would have been the start of a powerhouse. At last, Tom Watson rejected the proposal, and not because it wasn't enticing enough for him, but because it would have been the end of the PGA Tour. Whether you agree with that possibility happening or not, you'd be hard-pressed to say it wasn't a straightforward acknowledgement of the reality he saw. At the moment, he considered the prospect of million-dollar purses intersecting with his loyalty to the PGA Tour. He chose what he believed was right. He chose his beloved tour. He set aside the tempting prospects to stand by the values that meant the most to him and the tour that had etched its significance into his identity. Permit a little digression as we spell out the obvious. If the top 20 or even 30 golfers in the PGA left to join the prospect of the Super League, what would have been left of the former? The tour would have imploded. And that is precisely why Watson was concerned with the emergence of LIV Golf. It felt like history was repeating itself, with the PGA losing this time. Pay close attention to his train of thought and reflect on it a little. It'd be crucial as we progress in today's video. Not too long after opening up on his initial thoughts on the Saudi-backed LIV Golf, Tom Watson made the headlines again, this time facing the PGA Tour for ignoring his concerns. As you probably already know, the merger between LIV, the PGA, and the DP World Tour was announced on quick notice. No one except for the brokers knew what was going on. The fans, the sponsors, stakeholders, and even players were left in the dark, with some only finding out on social media. Watson criticized the clandestine nature of the negotiations leading up to the controversial agreement, especially given the players had no say in it. We have people that are making decisions that are really shaping the future of PGA Tour golf. Without player participation in those decisions, we're going in the wrong direction, he said. In his understanding that nothing good ever comes easy, he criticized the uncertainties of the merger while weighing what they may be losing. What does acceptance of this partnership mean to the tour? Watson asked. What do we get? What do we give up? What was this deal done in such secrecy, and why wasn't even one of the players who sits on the tour's policy board included? Granted, the PGA Tour tried to make amends by including Tiger Woods on the board, but to Watson, it simply isn't enough. He wishes for more influence for the players. Someone as iconic and well-versed in the tour as Watson knows just how crucial it is for players to be involved in decision-making. After all, the PGA Tour is often touted as a player-led entity. It only makes sense that its golfers should hold a more substantial sway when it comes to matters that directly impact their careers and livelihoods. Regarding the letter he wrote to the PGA over 2 months ago, seeking answers on what the merger meant moving forward, Watson became frustrated when speaking on an episode of the 5 Club's podcast. Why? Well, because he still hadn't gotten any answers. The sad thing about it is, the questions in the letter haven't been answered. Not a single one. We're waiting for answers. I can't comment on it until we get the answers. He added, the organization went outside of the due process. It wasn't transparent at all. That was a huge mistake, I think, and I think the players thought so too. A single player needed to be involved in that at least. As you probably already know, the PGA Tour discouraged its members from switching allegiances to LIV Golf despite the crazy amounts of money offered to them amid other incentives. In addition to placing bans on defectors, the tour also questioned the morality of golfers who jumped ship, given how Saudi Arabia has long been on the receiving end of the stick for its human rights records and political policies. Yet, despite their initial stance, the PGA Tour eventually merged. In a rather unexpected turn of events, they find themselves in a situation where accusations are hurled their way, accusations of going 180 degrees from their original principles and forsaking their values to pursue financial gains. Watson didn't shy away from also addressing the allegations of Saudi Arabia's involvement in terrorism, along with its questionable track record on human rights. I still await Saudi acknowledgement of their role in the attacks of 9/11, which resulted in the loss of innocent lives of 3,000 of my fellow American citizens. I support 9/11 Families United and their efforts to release supporting exculpatory U.S. government documents. Whether you agree with Watson or not, we must admit there is much to take home from his concerns. Is the PGA Tour headed in the wrong direction by agreeing on a merger? Remember to leave a comment and like and subscribe to our channel to stay updated on the latest golf news.